Hey folks, this is Jesse Cope back with another episode of the American Soul Podcast. Hope y'all are doing well, wherever y'all are, and whatever part of the day you're in. I sure do appreciate you joining me, giving me a little bit of your time. I know y'all have other things that you could do, so thank you. I'm sure y'all are being pulled in a million different directions. Laundry, dishes, and taking kids to and fro, building outside, garden, cleaning, making lunches, making breakfast, making dinner, what meetings there are for you, for your kids, if you're still in school, what test you've got, what practice is going to be like in the afternoon or the morning, what your friends are doing, watching, reading, wearing, thinking about. I saw a little meme recently. As I was going through this, I was just thinking about it. And it was talking primarily about a woman, but I think probably to some degree it's true for men too. And it was a picture of a woman and then all these little thought bubbles all the way around her. I've got a very close friend who described it once as open tabs on a computer screen, and however many open tabs you have that you're thinking about at any one time. And I get that. I'm not trying to make light of it. I know a lot of us have a lot of important things to do each day, but there's a difference between what we think is important and what is actually important often. And we get our days full because we don't have our tabs open in the right priority. We want a strong faith, but that tab is way down on the end of our day, and we don't always get to it because of that. We want a strong marriage, but the time to sit and talk with our spouse or listen to them, go for a walk, have sex with them, go out for dinner on a date, that tab is way down at the end each day. You know, we want to spend time with our kids, but we have all these other tabs open first, and so their tab gets pushed all the way down to the end. And so we start closing out these tabs on the screen of our mind as we accomplish them. And sometimes we don't get very many done, and sometimes we get a lot done. Sometimes they're really complicated tabs, and sometimes they're not. But as we get them done, for a lot of us, we don't feel any real sense of accomplishment because we're doing the unimportant things first. And we still have this weight on our shoulders in the back of our mind because the really important things that we've put off but we know we really ought to be doing, those tabs are still open. And so we get to the end of the day, and even if we've really accomplished a lot, we don't feel like it. And so we feel like we're behind already for the next day. You know, you climb in bed, and I know some of y'all, regardless of your age, junior high, high school, college, adult, 40-year-old, 50-year-old, 70-year-old, you climb in bed and you already feel like you're overwhelmed for the next day. And the next day hasn't even started. And I'm not trying to make this seem easy, maybe is the the best word, but it is very simple. It takes a little bit of willpower, takes some determination, takes a little bit of trust, honestly, in God. Instead of chasing after our own desires and what we think we ought to be doing and what we think is really important, to instead put the things that God tells us are important. You put His tab first, and hopefully His tab kind of reopens a few times throughout the day. And then you put your spouse, if you're married, second. And that doesn't always mean that's the second thing in the day that happens, right? But that means that you're planning your day around that tab and not pushing it to the end. So if your time together, for example, if you have somebody, if you're married to somebody that works a 12-hour shift or works odd hours or doesn't, it doesn't really matter. The point, folks, is that we plan our day around our priorities. We don't plan our priorities around our day, if that makes sense. And so maybe your time with God is in the middle of the day, where you can really sit down and pray and read the Bible for 10, 15 minutes, maybe 30, whatever it is that you can do, maybe 5. Or maybe your time with your spouse, where you can sit and really focus on them and talk to them and listen to them and unpack the day, or go for a walk, or just sit and watch the sunrise or the sunset, or have sex with them, or cook dinner with them, or whatever it is that makes your spouse feel loved. Play a board game. Play bingo. Whatever that is, if you're planning your day around it, then it doesn't matter when that is in your day, you're still going to have that time and energy and effort to do that. And that's kind of the lie that I saw this little meme, and it was really meant helpfully. But it really is a lie, folks, this whole idea of we have too much to do, in the sense that we don't have time for God, we don't have time for our spouse. It's just not true. We have time, we just don't choose to make time, because we choose to make other things a priority. We choose to make social media a priority, a TV show a priority, reading a book a priority. We choose to make our children a priority over God and our spouse. And the world will tell you, hey, that's what you have to do once you have children, but that's not true, and it's not reassuring to children. But whatever it is, or we need to work those extra hours, that's the priority. But we don't, folks. And if we do, in those really rare instances where we actually do, those do rarely happen, and that's okay. But when we start to make it a habit, then the problem isn't lack of time. The problem is our priorities are way out of line. And there's a way to fix that if we want to. And sometimes it's pretty painful. Sometimes it means, for example, we had some acquaintances years and years ago. They were actually friends of some of our friends. I didn't really know them that well. But they decided, they started to have a family. They were married. They had their first kid, had their second kid, and they just wanted the mom to be able, the wife, to be able to stay home. And they started looking at bills, mortgages, car payments, and they just couldn't make it. And so they ended up selling their house. I don't know what other major changes they had to make. Maybe they had to get rid of a car or refinance a car, but they ended up living in a really small house relative to what they had been living in, with 2 kids and maybe a couple dogs. But the wife was able to stay home with the kids then and make a home, love her husband each day, raise her children. And that was the priority for them. And I'm not saying that your priority looks exactly the same, but the point is they made some pretty drastic changes, and we can too, just like we can as a nation, if we really want to. If we really want to. And I will get to a couple quotes. We're going to do some presidential quotes for the next few days, just kind of some generic ones. But since I kind of got off on this priority type podcast, which we do every once in a while, I'm going to talk about one more thing my pastor said really kind of in the latter half of his sermon. And, sometimes you're sitting in church, your brain starts going a million different directions. I think a lot of times the devil's kind of in there trying to convince you not to pay attention to what your pastor's saying. But when he said this, all of that distraction and all of that tiredness or sleepiness or whatever else went away. And it immediately got my full attention. And I'm going to paraphrase it, probably poorly. But he said, God will always provide for his people. But God has no problem destroying a country, a state, that isn't following him. And he was really referring to Israel in the Old Testament, but he was really talking, and you can tell by his facial expression, about America today. And I think there's a lot of us that as Christians make this mistake of, we just can't even comprehend how God wouldn't keep America going. And we really need to focus on that statement, folks. God's going to provide for his people, and sometimes that doesn't look like what we think it's going to look like. A lot of times people get taken that we love. A lot of times these things happen that we can't understand, and I am not trying to make light of them or just brush them away, and I've lived through some of them, folks. You lose a parent, you lose a spouse, you lose a kid, you lose a best friend. Life just seems to be one disaster after the next. But that doesn't mean that he's not still there, and sometimes him bringing us home is the very best thing that could happen for us and others. And that's just, that's such a big, huge topic, especially when you start to talk about the, relatively, how bad is our life? Are we enslaved like so much of the rest of the world population is? Are we fighting just to get food and water each day, et cetera, et cetera? But the point is, there's no guarantee that God's going to keep America going, just like he finally had enough with Israel. He kept the Jewish people. He protected and provided and kept that remnant alive for almost 2,000 years without an actual country. So just somewhere in the back of your mind, you might think about that just a little bit. And the other thing, and I guess this is it, this will wrap it up, is the parable. I want to say it's out of Matthew, maybe 21. Let me see if I can find it real quickly. And it talks about two sons. Jesus was giving this parable. And but what do you think? A man had two sons. And he came to the first and said, "Son, go work today in the vineyard." And he answered, "I will not." But afterward he regretted it and went. The man came to the second and said the same thing, and he answered, "I will, sir." But he did not go. Which of the two did the will of his father? And they said to him, he was talking to the Pharisees, Sadducees, the leaders, whoever. They said to him, the first. And Jesus said to them, "Truly I say to you that the tax collectors and the prostitutes will get into the kingdom of God before you. For John came to you in the way of righteousness, and you did not believe him. But the tax collectors and the prostitutes did believe him. And you, seeing this, did not even feel remorse afterward, so as to believe in him. What we do matters far more than what we say, folks. Waldo Emerson, I think the quote belongs to Ralph Waldo Emerson. Your words speak so loudly, or your actions speak so loudly, that I cannot understand the words that you are saying. And that may be a paraphrase, or it may be spot on. I can't remember. But that's true in our faith, our relationship with God and Jesus Christ. It's true in our marriage, our relationship with our spouse. It's true with our children and our relationship with them. Our actions speak so loudly that they can't understand the words that we're saying. If you get a chance, folks, and you can rate the podcast or tell somebody about it, please do. That's what helps spread the word, is every time y'all, more than any social media or anything else, any advertising, the way the podcast grows is when you tell somebody about it. If you get a chance, sign up for the extra episodes on Buzzsprout. It's $3 a month, and you get all the additional episodes that we do each month. God bless y'all. God bless your families. God bless your marriages. God bless America. We'll talk to y'all again real soon, folks. Looking forward to it.